Hello and welcome to this week's Marketing Mix. I'm here with Chris, who is going to be talking about WhatsApp automation. Now, Chris and I met at a trade show at Twickenham, and I was wandering around the stands, I was wandering around the stands, and I came across Chris's stand and asked him what he did. And he showed me how powerful WhatsApp automation can be, and I was blown away. So I asked him to come onto the Marketing Mix to help us all understand how you can use WhatsApp automation to really help you convert leads that you find. So, Chris, tell us a bit about yourself and your business.
No, thank you for inviting me on. So, my name's Chris. I've been in marketing for about 15 years, and my speciality previously was in generating leads through organic, and then I went into paid ads. I think one of my biggest frustrations was working with clients for whom we were generating leads for who weren't converting the leads. And the standard answer is, oh, they're not great leads, they're not picking up the phone. And then you start digging and realizing, well, actually they're doing quite a lot of work, submitting quite a lot of information at the front end. Just because you've tried to call them twice and they've not answered doesn't mean they're not viable. So I started looking at what we can do from an automation perspective. Email automation has been around for a while and is definitely effective. But then I sort of stumbled across WhatsApp and WhatsApp's API around about, I'd say about a year ago now. And it allows you as a business to send outbound WhatsApps when somebody fills out a form, when they view a document, when they click on a link, when they do the things we want them to. And I've kind of fallen into that rabbit hole over the last, I'd say, 12 to 18 months of building out what a behaviorally natural journey looks like on WhatsApp.
So, it's when someone fills out something, that's when it kicks in. So it's pretty similar to email automation because there has to be an action beforehand for automation to kick off.
Yeah, so in the same way as email automation can be done, you can trigger this manually. So I could take somebody's information and just send this to them manually. But what we can do is when that first form is completed, so a form on a website, a form through a paid ad, anything like that, with that email that goes with them immediately to confirm, I can also send videos, PDFs, images, or just standard WhatsApp messages all through WhatsApp that just touches base with them and this essentially elicits those responses.
I remember when I met you, I've forgotten what the trade show is called, and you showed me, and I had to then you sent me a message, and I had to pick something out of two things, and then that branched off, I guess, into the next message it sent me.
Yeah, so I show off a little bit. It's a fairly simple chatbot within WhatsApp where I ask you to pick a card. So I present you with which color do you want, red, black, which suit do you want based on the color choice, which card do you want, ace, king, queen. And then based on those choices, it sends you a photo of the card. But the reason I have that is it's a bit of a demonstration where you, as a business owner, might have some clients which are going to be your high ticket clients. So let's say I don't want to work with anybody that picks diamonds or hearts. I just want to focus on ace and spades and clubs, but the king of clubs is my ideal customer. Based on their choices through that, I can send them different things. So anybody that, I forgive the phraseology of this, isn't worth your time jumping on a call to convert them because they're going to be a low ticket item, you can just send them that low ticket stuff without taking any extra time. And the people that have said, right, I've got a 10 grand budget that's ready to go, I want to spend it with you tomorrow, brilliant. That notifies every single device you have in your home to give them a ring as soon as possible.
That's really great. So in terms of how this happened, why do you think it's so effective in helping you to convert leads?
It's a great question. I think over the last, say, 5 to 10 years, people get so many emails on average during the day that they just don't get opened enough. And you know as well as I do, the sort of standard open rate for emails is around about 20%. If they're expecting the email, that can be a bit higher, but you're still not talking in the sort of higher echelons of everything. Whereas with WhatsApp, across the board, 80% of WhatsApp messages that are sent internationally are opened within 10 minutes of them being received. That's across the board, every country in the world, that's the average. For me, I'm seeing read rates of 93, 94% on average.
Wow.
And because of the way that the messaging is being sent, where it's almost a sort of customer service agent, where it's saying, "Thank you for inquiring. I'm here to help. What questions have you got?" As opposed to, "Brilliant, you've inquired. Here is Jazzy number one," and so on and so forth. Because it's done as a sort of messaging customer service thing that goes along with that journey,
Mhm.
I'm seeing reply rates of 60, 70% on most of the inquiries that I have coming in. And I'm getting upwards of 40% of people booking a meeting with me before I even have the chance to get them on the phone within 15 minutes of their inquiry.
That's incredible. Wow. So that's actually quite mind blowing, because you're right. When a lot of, on average, I would say that 20% is a good open rate for an email.
Mm-hmm.
I get upwards of 40, but there's still almost 60% that don't always open my emails. But to be getting that open rate and response rate is pretty good. I think maybe I should look into this.
We can have a conversation at the end. I think the other thing is how to deliver that medium. So with an email, however it's received, let's say it is opened, when people go through it, it's fairly standard. If they want to watch the video, they've got to click something into the email. If they want to watch this, they've got to do this. With WhatsApp, I can send a video, the actual file in the WhatsApp message immediately. So for me, for example, if you inquire through my website or through my socials or any sort of place like that, other than trade shows, because I'm standing talking to you at those, the first thing you get is a video from me where I say, "Thank you so much for inquiring. Just to let you know, this is an automated video. I will reach out within the next 24 hours. But in the meantime, I know you have questions. I'm going to answer them in this call. And if by the end of it, you feel like it would be worth having a chat, then just click the button below here and book in a time that suits you." And
So
that,
sorry, go on.
no, that video is just, it takes them from their initial, "Oh, I'm a little bit interested," to, I start gaining trust. I start having questions answered. I start having doubts removed. My expectations have been set, all within a really small space of time, which is received the same way that their videos would be received from friends or family. So in a really familiar way.
So two interesting points there. The familiarity of the way that they've received the message, but also the first message is just not a sell. It's I'm going to get back to you, but here are some answers to questions that you might have, which is a nice gentle lead into that sell further down the line. But I like the familiarity, because I have to say that, I sometimes when I'm up here and my husband's downstairs, we communicate via WhatsApp. So that's in the same house, and I like communicate with my whole family. We have a family group on WhatsApp. So it's interesting that having that familiarity really helps to get that sort of interaction, but also that the results that you've just said. So in terms of creating this automation, what would people need outside of WhatsApp?
So interestingly, there are 3 tiers to WhatsApp, and this is the thing that most people aren't aware of. So you've got WhatsApp Personal, which everybody knows about, WhatsApp for Business, which a lot of businesses do know about and use. What I'm talking about is a 3rd tier above that called WhatsApp's API. There are a few requirements. So you need to have a verified Meta Business Manager. That's not necessarily a blue tick on Facebook. It's, you need to submit certain documentation to Meta to have that verified, and then you have the ability to send. Because these messages that can be automated have to be reviewed by Meta the same way a Facebook or Instagram ad would need to be.
Right.
It's brilliant for us as marketers, because it means it reduces the amount of spam going through to them. So we're still going to receive quite a good impact. Whereas you could just go and set up a domain tomorrow and batch send 5,000 emails the day after with certain bits of kit. You can't do that with WhatsApp's API. So you need to have that in place. And then you need to have some sort of software that will allow you to do it. So I use a software called Wati, which is WATI. But I can almost guarantee within the next 6 months, most major CRM providers will have some sort of WhatsApp API access. HubSpot have part of theirs native. ManyChat have brought it on fairly recently to go alongside their Messenger. Go High Level have it in the pipeline for theirs soon, so that's going to be released soon. So there are a few different ways to do it, but not everybody will qualify for it because the getting verified with Meta is easy enough if you're a limited company. It can sometimes be a little bit harder if you're not, because of the documentation they require to verify your business.
Okay. And so to verify, if you've got a Facebook page or an Instagram page and you have Meta Business Manager Suite or whatever it's called these days, is that enough, or is there stuff on top of that?
So there's stuff on top of that. Okay. Meta Business Manager and Meta Business Suite are frustratingly two different things.
Oh, okay.
So most businesses that run sort of Instagram or Facebook pages will probably have a business suite. You can have the pages without. A lot of them will have business suite. Business Manager is a whole different tier on top.
Okay.
I consider it like a bit of an umbrella where the organization owns the page and the Instagram and the WhatsApp, as opposed to one individual person.
Yeah.
And again, by default, when you set that up, it'll actually be ineligible for verification. Okay. It's only after you then request access to the WhatsApp API that it requires verification. And so most people, even if you have that top level, which most people don't, by default, you don't need to. In fact, by default, it won't let you verify it.
Okay.
Until you've started to request access to things that do require that verification.
Yeah. So can you give us some examples? Like we talked about the trade show, but can you give us some examples of when businesses might use this? And is it good? Two questions. Is it good for B2Bs as well as B2Cs, or would it be one or the other?
I'd arguably say it's better for B2B than it is for B2C, if I'm being frank, because as much as we like to look at B2B transactions as more professional and more formal than B2C, very often they're actually more emotional than B2C, because the B on the other end of it is making a decision for their business, which affects everything, whereas a consumer is just deciding whether they want A or B, which could well be a luxury. Examples of where to use it, there are three main areas with, I'd say, lead-based businesses that I see the most impact. Number one is having it as part of that sales inquiry journey. So if your product isn't something that somebody just impulse buys, if you need them to submit their data to then go through a bit of a process, having this as part of that becomes transformational, because you don't have a huge drop off of people. You get in contact, people are doing things themselves. And these are still people that wouldn't pick up the phone to a random number. Then I call it the post-meeting stage. So for me, whenever I speak to clients, the next thing is book a discovery call, book in some sort of call to work out whether we'd be a good fit, what happens after that, and also what happens before that to remind people to turn up. My current no-show rate, I've had one no-show in the last 3 months on meetings.
Wow.
And I worked it out the other day at 98.57%. So 1 in 70 is a no-show rate, and 98.57 is my turn-up rate. And that's because of the WhatsApps that I'm sending in advance of that meeting. And then the post-proposal stage. So if you've generated a quote and send that over to people, what that process looks like, which is either automated based on like 7 days after you sent it, 14 days, whatever that looks like, or based on the user triggering it when they say open their proposal 5 days later. I could send a WhatsApp to somebody that has received my proposal 3 months ago, just saying, hi, just checking in, see what thoughts you had. And it's triggered purely on them reopening their proposal 3 months down the line.
So if I'm hearing this correctly, you could send a proposal and then it gets opened, but then it gets opened again 3 months down the line, and that triggers the automation.
Yep.
Amazing. So it's kind of, they feel like you're following up, whereas you've got it all baked in at every step of the way. So I'm guessing this takes a little bit of planning ahead of time, like email automations, that they don't just happen. You have to know. So can you just walk us through perhaps what people might have to think about? So that I'm going to share a link, everybody, for you to book a discovery call with Chris. But here are some things, like what would they think about before that discovery call? What would you want them to know?
So what I say to everybody, and this is a spoiler alert for anybody that does book that call. You'll get confirmation of the call via WhatsApp, and then 24 hours before the call, you'll get a video from me setting expectations on what's going to happen on the call. So what I say to everybody in that planning stage is, I'd want you to know exactly what that journey looks like currently for your customers, which sounds like a really silly question, but you'd be surprised how many business owners I speak to who haven't recently gone through their own sales journey. So where you get either the majority of the leads or where most of them come from, go through that process and see what it feels like. See what information you feel like you need at each stage and what bits you're missing. I would say to everybody, there should be something always going immediately to them that sets expectations, because there's nothing more frustrating than filling out a form and then being there going, did they receive it? And I say, I can almost guarantee when I speak, especially when I speak to crowds of people, and I say, who in the room has filled in a form and then been so unsure that it's been received that they've then gone to social media and sent a follow-up message. And get a hell of a lot of people put their hand up. And then my follow-up question is, now, keep your hand up if that made you more likely to make the sale, and put it down if it made you less likely to make the sale. Nobody ever keeps their hands up. So there's that sort of bit where you're quashing down and setting expectations. So if you as a business can almost always get back to somebody within 24 hours, brilliant. That first message just sets that expectation. And then you should have a plan for what I call the every case scenario, as opposed to the worst case scenario, where I want everybody that inquires to receive this if I don't get them on the phone, if they don't book a meeting, and quite frankly, if they don't tell me to bugger off. If they do any of those three things during that journey, then I'll remove them from that and either add them into, brilliant, you've booked a meeting, here's your reminder flow for the meeting.
Yeah.
Or you've told me I'm flat out not interested, Chris, please leave me alone. No problem at all. I just remove you from things. So it's worth working out that, and also working out what is behaviorally natural for your customers anyway. So if your lead time from inquiry to sale is 3 weeks, for example, you shouldn't be front loading the automations at the start to try and get them to buy. You should be leaning into the fact that it may well take 3 weeks, or it may take a few people longer, but equally presenting them the opportunity to go, look, if you're ready to go for this, here is that option. But if it's something you need a little bit more time on, brilliant, click here. And just leaning into what they're likely to do, because it's more service led than heavy hard sales strategy.
And that, I guess that's what's so I don't know about it that doesn't feel salesy, because I know I don't like that overt sales, those sales tactics. I don't like. It feels uncomfortable for me to do that, and I don't like being on the receiving end. And I know a lot of consultants like me who probably are in the marketing world don't like selling. So I'm guessing this feels like a little bit more of a can I help you way of getting the sale, rather than the hard, like, right, are you ready to buy? Are you ready to buy? Which I think puts more people at ease and probably more likely to buy, right?
Yeah, I like comparing it to when you go into like PC World and you go into the TV section and they've got a member of staff that's there to sort of guide you. Now, if that member of staff ran over to you the second you stepped foot into his or her section, and said, right, what TV are you going to buy? It's a different impact to when they leave you, notice you, say, hi, good morning, let you have a sort of wander around, and then come over and go, what help do you need? And by asking that question at the right time, they can go, well, I'm looking for this. It's like, brilliant. Well, I've got these options. Here fits all of your criteria. Here also does, and here would be my personal recommendation because of this, this, and this. You might end up spending more money than you expected to in that situation, but you also more often than not thank the guy or girl for their help in that situation. So it's about doing it in a behaviorally natural way. And I think it's why WhatsApp has a bit of an edge on email, because email, I mean, we all write emails differently to how we speak in normal tone. Nobody says goodbye to somebody and goes, yours sincerely, and then walks away from them. We don't do that in our normal world, but we all do it in emails. Whereas on WhatsApp, it can be that more conversational based, and because their behavioral familiarity with just having conversations on WhatsApp is pre-programmed for them to do it, as long as you're phrasing it in a way which is just service led and not sales led, it feels like you're just offering fantastic customer service. But we all know the better the service is, the more likely you are to pay the bill at the end of it.
And the more likely you are to refer other people, which is
and making it easy
really
for that
gold
to
dust.
happen as well. Like I have a message whenever and I'm re-recording this week, but whenever anybody signs a proposal with me to start, the first thing they get is a video which I set expectations on what happens next, present them the link for their onboarding and ideation calls that need to be booked in. And I also turn around and say, and look, who else in your network do you think would benefit from this? That's in the first video when they sign. And I normally get on average 2 to 3 referrals from that one video before I've even started any work, just because it is framed in such a strong way.
Yeah. That's. I mean, that's what we all want, right? Is that you want to get to the point where the marketing actually is there, sort of giving you air cover, but your current customers are A, buying more from you, but B, referring you to other people.
Yeah.
And that referral engine really is gold dust. So what form would people fill in? Like, how does that work in terms of if on your website, is it a special form? Or is it just a form that's available on your website?
If you know the world of automation, anything that can trigger a Zap can trigger this WhatsApp. So the form on my website is actually a Go High Level form that's just embedded on the site. But I could have had it as a standard WordPress form, and that WordPress form informs the CRM or triggers Zapier. Most CRMs that either have a native integration with some sort of software, have it inbuilt, or they'll have the facility to connect to something like Zapier, which again can send these. Anything that can send a webhook, anything that can send a HTTP post, anything like that. I have yet to find an inquiry method that can't generate a WhatsApp. The most difficult one I've had for a prospective client was they have a very closed CRM system which has no external functionalities, but every time a lead comes in, they get an email. So we change the email address that gets notified to Zapier's email parser thing, where it reads the email. Obviously, all the emails are in the same format. So it takes the information and then puts that information into WhatsApp and sends the WhatsApp, even from a closed system, just from the notification email. So generally speaking, you don't have to change anything that's currently happening. On platform, Facebook and Instagram forms, very, very easy to do them for quite a few clients. So usually you don't need to uproot what's happening at the front end on how you're getting that information. You just have to attach this in the back end. I think you remember seeing my business card at the show. So this is just for the benefit of anybody else. That's my business card, because that QR code takes you through to a landing page with a form that triggers a WhatsApp, and then we'll send you another WhatsApp an hour after you filled it in, thanking you for stopping and speaking to me.
Amazing. So is this the only way that you follow up leads, or do you combine this WhatsApp automation with other methods, or is this the one thing that works and it's how you do it?
It's definitely the one thing that gets the most return. I still tie this in with email. I would never advise you to replace email with WhatsApp. I'd say do it concurrently. And very often you'll see in my chain, I would send a WhatsApp that's automated 2 minutes after an email has been automated. And the WhatsApp will say, "Hi, Manal, I've just sent you an email. It's got loads of information in it. Let me know the questions you have on it," which boosts the email open rate as well. I'll still call people at the end of it, but I get from conferences like we met at, about 40% of the people that come over to the stand will book in a meeting with me from the message that goes automatically at 7:00 that night. So I'm then left with just the 60% to call them and get them booked in. And if I get leads coming in through my TikTok or Facebook, generally speaking, they book in meetings after going through a bit of a demo. So I have one at the end of the week this week who has seen my TikToks, gone through the link, watched the video, opened a PDF that gets sent as part of the WhatsApp chain, gone through the demo and picked the card that I sort of mentioned through that chain, and got to the end of it, booked a meeting, and I haven't spoken to them yet. I will just log on to the call on Friday, and they've already done all of that qualifying bit. I haven't touched them yet.
I mean, It's the dream, isn't it? Especially if you work on your own, like if you're in your business by yourself, having something like that set up is going to take away so many time-consuming tasks that are repetitive, so are prime for automation. So I think for solo business owners or people with small teams, this is, I would say, a really great addition to whatever processes that you've already got. And if you are interested, you're watching, I've just put a link to Chris's booking system for a discovery call. And as he said, you'll experience WhatsApp automation as soon as you book your slot. You'll be able to see how that works. Chris, we're running out of time. Is there any last bit of advice that you'd give to people about how to use this well?
Yeah, I think the number one bit of advice I give, and this is covering sort of all follow-up automation. So WhatsApp's a big part of what I do, but I build automated customer journeys on email and WhatsApp for businesses. My number one bit of advice there is nobody that you're speaking to cares about your business as much as you do. And I think that applies across all marketing. So the incorrect assumption a lot of people make that when an inquiry comes in, it's like, oh, that inquiry comes in, they're going to be ready. It's going to take time, especially if you get a high volume of leads and aren't necessarily qualifying them heavily at the front end. People will look at that situation and sort of go, oh, well, yeah, we've got loads of leads that they're all going to buy. It's like they're not going to. They need that helping hand. And if you're looking after them in such a way, you can obviously convert more of the ones that are coming in, but you can make that whole front end marketing effort a lot more effective. I get sometimes frustrated when I say, right, imagine you had a campaign that generated 100 leads and you generated 10 sales. If I said to you next month you need to generate 20 sales, everybody's mind goes to, right, I need 200 leads. And I said, no, you've got 90 leads. You've already got 90 that you're qualifying out because they haven't run at you and given you money. But realistically, what does that follow-up process look like? If you've tried to call them twice and they haven't picked up, and then that's them just disqualified, it's nowhere near enough, because you could have just called them at 2 times when they were just not busy and they are your ideal customer and they're waiting for you to come back to them. So I think those are my 2 bits of advice. You need to do more follow-up than you think you're doing. And tying this in with, getting on the call, that your standard follow-up stuff, this is just supporting and helping you get to that point. And also just being aware that the quality of their journey without this is based on somebody who has never, ever cared about your business as much as you do.
Great advice. So the link is in the comments. Chris is available to talk you through how he can help your business follow up leads with WhatsApp automation. So please do book that discovery call. If you are not on my email list, I'd love to see you there. The Marketing Morsel, it comes out every week on a Tuesday. You get an email that talks about how you can market your business as a solo business owner, but you also get add-ons. So tomorrow I have got the Marketing Motivator, which is my 4 times a year mini mastermind, and you get invited to that if you're one of the most engaged members of my community. So join that if you want to get more general marketing advice and be told about the things like Chris's interview in advance. 2 weeks time, I'm going to be joined by Marie-Louise O'Neill, who is going to talk us through Canva tips. And I know Canva is vast now, and there's a lot that you can do with it. And I know I'm only scratching the surface. And so I'm really looking forward to having Marie-Louise on with me to talk about Canva. Thank you again, Chris, for joining me. And I think this is a really exciting move for marketing. This whole, I'm a big fan of automation anyway, but this sounds like it's something that could really help a lot of small businesses. So thank you for taking us through it today.
No problem at all. And thank you for the invite. Really, really enjoyed it.
All right. I'll see you in 2 weeks' time, people.